guys, how's it going? So welcome back to my channel. Welcome to everyone who's here from my 31 Links of Horror challenge. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing. I hope you'll have a lot of fun here, even when it's not a spooky series. Okay, so today I'm going to do a bit of a late update on my September reads, what I read in October, and what I'm currently reading for nonfiction November. As you all know, I am a slow reader, and I like it that way, and I might make a video about it someday. We'll see. This is all I read in September. But of course, this is a lie. Kind of. Let me explain. So September was a month during which I wanted to give a chance to all my short story books because I don't usually like short stories, and I couldn't really put my finger on why. I finally know. Now that I've pulled all my short story books, I understand. So let's go through them. The first short story book I gave a chance to was Ghostly Tales from Michigan. Ryan Jacobson. I got this book on a vacation. I can't remember where, in what context, but you know, those books where you do something and, oh, probably a ghost ship tour type of thing, you know? So this book is a bunch of haunted cases. They're based on true stories of things that are allegedly haunted. So you have various chapters. You have different categories. So you have haunted homes, bedeviled businesses, and public places. That's a really cool name. You have eerie outdoors, traveler terrors, and Great Lakes ghosts. So like a buffoon, I started with the first story. I would have been interested to read the Great Lakes ghost section. So I only read one short story. That was my thing. One short story from every book to see. So I read the first one, which was Poltergeist. And it's really some open and shut seemingly case about this family was putting their home up for sale, and they got a bunch of hauntings while they were selling the house, and then it stopped after they left the house, after they sold it and moved to their new house. And they were like, oh, we were being haunted because it was a family home, and all the family ghosts were like, we don't want you to leave, blah blah blah, something like that. So what I will say about this book, and I mean this with 100% full respect, okay? I think this would be a great book for the bathroom. Hear me out, please. Let me know if your family has this, and I admit it's not the most hygienic thing in the world, but growing up, all of my grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever, had a bunch of comic books, magazines, whatever in the bathroom to read, I guess, while you're taking a particularly lengthy dump. I don't know. And the reason I say this would be great for that is because these short stories, I mean, they're really short, and they're written in almost like an article fashion, if that makes sense. It's very factual. There's not much, sort of a little bit of storytelling, I guess, but not too much. And yeah, I mean, they're really, you know, this one is literally 1 page long. They're, I would say, 1 to 5 pages long max. So, and I mean, I kind of enjoyed that type of story because it does read like an article. So it's not like a typical story. It was fun. I won't put this in the bathroom because I think it's kind of gross, but I'll probably put it on a coffee table or something for one of those days where you have 10 minutes to kill and nothing to do and just, you know. So I will keep this one. I wasn't planning on getting rid of any, but I mean, that was me. It wasn't a poltergeist. My point is, I'm not going to DNF it. Okay, so the second book I read was The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Mariana Enriquez, or Les Dangers de Fumer au Lit. This is the French cover. It's awesome. By the way, if you go to Michelle's Melancholia, it was one of her recent videos. She did a bookshelf tour of all of her short story books, and she has this one in 2 different versions. I think she has the English edition and then the Mexican edition, I believe. They're all different covers though, and I think it's super fun to see like different editions of the same book. Anyway, so again, I just read the first short story in the book as a woman dedicated to chronology, which is L'exhumation d'Angelina, or the exhumation of Angelina. Is exhumation a word in English? Like when a body's being exhumed? Whatever, please correct me in the comments. So anyway, this, if I remember correctly, is a short story about Angelina, whose body... No. Oh, I think I remember. Sorry, I did read this a while ago. So if I remember, it's a story about a family who... or a little girl who is being haunted, and she finds out that it is one of her ancestors, and she basically walks back to her home house, because this is after they just moved out of their longtime family home, and basically, the ghost is the ghost of an ancestor that was buried in the backyard. I forget which culture this is from, but I believe it was some culture where it is customary to bury your relatives in the backyard. I should have talked about this sooner after reading it. But I will say, and this is the book that made me realize why I'm not a huge fan of most short stories. They're very hit or miss, okay? There are some good ones out there. I'm not denying that at all. And I do think it's a good format for when you just want to read a little something. However, the reason I find that most short stories don't work for me is because of the length. It is very difficult to have a specific beginning, middle, and end. For that reason, a lot of short stories to me feel like they're a part of a longer story. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you were watching a scene from a movie, but you weren't watching before and after. So the scene itself has some type of resolution within a bigger story. So it still feels like you're missing a lot and you're just getting too much of a snippet, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, since the book is titled The Dangers of Smoking in Bed, I'm going to read the next short story, oh no, it's not the next one. There's a short story in here called The Dangers of Smoking in Bed, and I'm assuming if they titled the book after that, it's probably one of the best ones. So I think I'm going to read that one at least, but to be honest, I don't really want to read the rest of the book. The book cover looks really cool though, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, this one I think was just okay. Next up, I read a selection of short stories and poems by Edgar Allan Poe. Would you believe that as much of a horror fan as I am, I had never read any Edgar Allan Poe. I read the first, again, short story in here, which is The Telltale Heart, and I loved this story so much. It is essentially you're inside of a killer's head, and he's talking about the experience of murdering someone, kind of the rush, the adrenaline, and just the whole experience, and that almost works better as a short story for me because it's not trying to tell a story with a specific beginning, middle, and end. It's really describing an act, which in itself has a beginning, middle, and end, of course, but it's much more psychological, and I feel like it works better in a short story format than a full-on story, if that makes sense. So this one I'm definitely gonna read the rest of, and I'm debating whether I should do like a long vlog where I kind of vlog my thoughts on every single short story in here and then compile them together into a very long book review / vlog thing. Should I do that? I don't know. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. I think it'd be kind of cool. Maybe I'll do that. Okay, so that. Next up, okay. This was a bit of a complex read, but I did enjoy it. It is Labyrinths by Jorge Luis Borges. This one was gifted to me by my dad. I read, which one did I read? Hold on. I did not read the first one here because it was, did I? No, I did. I read the first, okay, that's what happened. I read the first short story, but I did not read the introduction and preface. Although I do think that would have given more context, and if I do read the rest of these short stories, which I probably will in due time, not right away, but I will probably read the intro and preface at that time. So I read Tlon Akbar Orbis Tertius. Can you see that? I don't know. Anyway, this is like another book I'm going to talk about after, a more philosophically sourced story. I definitely did not understand a lot of what was going. I couldn't even tell you what it's about off the top of my head. I did enjoy this because it was close enough to fiction to make sense, but close enough to philosophy to make you feel intelligent for reading it. And well, this was a little more complex, I will say. I think even if I'd spoken about this right after reading it, I would have just said, I don't know what's going on. It's this dude who's talking about Tlon, which I think is a type of map or a way of thinking that existed a long time ago, though I'm still not clear on whether that was like a fictional past or if it's rooted in the real past. I'll have to look into it. I do think my mistake was not having read the preface and the intro, because I do think with philosophy books or nonfiction, that type of book, it does give extra context that helps you understand the rest of the book. So I'm very undecided on this one. I feel like I should read more of it though, because my dad gave it to me. I do think if you want to read more philosophy, short stories are also a good way to do it, because it's not like you're embarking on a giant mammoth of an undiscernible information. But yeah, so maybe this is a better way to go about it. I'll probably keep this one for later reference. Okay, the next book I was talking about is that I was talking about in relation to the Labyrinths is The Eternal Husband by Fyodor Dostoyevsky, or I should say, and other short stories. So I started with a shorter one, so I did not start with the first story. I read Notes on a Certain Person. Oh no, sorry. Bobok. Notes on a Certain Person. So again, I, off the top of my head, cannot remember what this was about. Against all of my predetermined assumptions, okay, my books are falling. This Fyodor Dostoyevsky was actually an easier read than Jorge Luis Borges. I didn't know anything about Luis Borges, but I did know that Dostoyevsky was kind of a... yeah. So if you're choosing between these two, I might still pick this one first because it was less complex. I remember understanding the concepts in Bobok better than in this one, in Labyrinths. Although I do remember, now that I'm talking about it, as I was reading it, I was seeing kind of a tie-in with the title Labyrinths. Whereas this one, I think they just picked the name of the most famous short story in it. So the title itself, at least to my knowledge at the moment, doesn't seem like much of a descriptor of the entire book, rather just one story. And the second to last, well, the last one I read, but the second to last one I want to tell you about is Nuit au Funerarium, or A Night at the Funerarium, at the morgue? What was funerarium in English? I forget. Is it funeral? In the funeral home. Thank you. By Daryl Delight. So I got this book 2 years ago at a horror book festival, and it was great. So they featured a bunch of indie authors who were publishing or, selling their books at the fair, which was super fun. So I got it there. It's in French, and I don't know if it's been translated to English, but I will say this book structure is really interesting. Again, I had a problem with the story in relation to what I said earlier, where it didn't feel like it had a specific beginning, middle, and end. But what I like about this one is that there are several different short stories, and the narrator it's kind of like a Tales from the Crypt situation, where the funeral home doctor is telling you like the story of the bodies he's working on, right? And so between each short story, there's a bit of a mini chapter or transition chapter where the funeral home director the doctor is talking directly to you. So he's like, yeah, I remember that guy. And as he's handling the corpse and whatever, and then it is really like Tales from the Crypt, where the crypt keeper is like, all right, I'm gonna tell you this story now. And then he opens his book and he's like, all right, grimoire, not book. So I do think I'm going to keep reading this just for the structure. And then I have the Call of Cthulu and Other Weird Tales by Lovecraft. So I was going to try to read one short story from this in September, but I ran out of time. I would have read in October, not a big deal. But then Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads announced that in December he's going to have his Cthulhu Christmas reading event, or reading project or whatever, which consists of reading Cthulhu fiction either on the day of or around Christmas. So I do have this one, and then I think I have another Cthulhu inspired fiction from another author on my shelves, which I'll try to bust out. I think I'm going to keep those two for Christmas or December. So we'll get there when we get there, and I'm keeping this one for later. Also, check this out. Isn't this cool? See, it's in 3D, and then you have the 3D glasses. I don't know if you can you see it? Like, woo. Okay, anyway. But this is a really cool bookmark, right? So that was for September. A very chaotic reading month. I read a lot, and then I also did not complete a single book, which is not a big deal. So in October, as I announced on my first video of 31 Links of Horror, I read My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris. I talked about it in my video, and I think I'm going to make a dedicated book review for this one. Check out all the tabbing I did. I loved this book so much. I loved it. Like, I was blown away. I really was kind of skeptical about it because I seldom read any graphic novels. In fact, I think I can specifically say I read 2 graphic novels prior to this one. I did grow up reading comic books though, but it's not really the same thing. As of specifically, graphic novels, 2 others, and I really want to get the sequel to this one now. I'll tell you about it in a separate video. What am I reading in November? Well, the other day I started The Girl with 7 Names by Hyun-Seo Lee, and I'm this far in. This is a memoir of Hyun-Seo Lee, who grew up and escaped from North Korea, and I'm so fascinated to hear her story. I had this book on my shelves for years. Don't know why I never got to it, but guess what? It's Nonfiction November, which consists of reading at least one nonfiction book or story, whatever, in the month of November. So hi. And it's just so interesting to me. I talk about reading from different cultures around the world, where it's not like there is a wide selection of books for North Korea. So I'm really, really curious. And by the way, I've only read this much, which is quite literally just, under 30 pages. And I already know this is going to be my best read for the year. Maybe it will still be My Favorite Thing is Monsters, but a close contender. I am hooked, big time hooked. Okay, I love this so much. If I have time, I'm going to get to this second book, The 10-Day MBA. I frankly don't think I will have enough time. We'll see how it goes. Again, slow reader, mood reader, love it. still love myself. I would still like to read this one before the end of 2026. Or 2025, sorry. Oh my gosh. So I guess we have my reading plans for the rest of the year, right? So I have this one for November, maybe this one. I have the Cthulhu book and the derived fiction, which I'll find is somewhere on my shelves. I don't know, but that's what I'll be reading in December. So man, it's so wild that the year is almost over. 2025 has been a crapshoot internationally and on a personal level. But don't forget to like and subscribe and make the best of whatever's left of your year. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.